Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Mind the Mental Monday. It is such a wonderful day, and I don't know about where you are. I'm in South Jersey, and the weather was really beautiful today. Even though I didn't really get a chance to get outside in it, I did step outside just for a few minutes, and it was really beautiful. So, one of the things that I recommend doing to be proactive about your mental health and taking care of your mental health is to get out and get some fresh air. Like if it's a day like I work from home a couple days a week, and but those days, I really have to be intentional to just step outside and get some fresh air because I can really easily get sucked into my computer and just be full focused on work and be look up and have been sitting at my computer for a few hours. So it's important to even if you're at work to, get away from your desk for a minute. If you have a job that's a desk job in particular, get up, get moving, because that really does have a lot to do with your mental health. Right before this, not right before, but about an hour ago, 2 hours ago now, I did with my church, did our exercises by Zoom, and so when I come on Monday nights, I'm feeling pretty good because usually if I get a chance to participate in that, it really kind of shakes me up and wakes me up and kind of gets me motivated and ready to come here and talk to you. So thank you for being here with me tonight. I want to talk tonight about um, being a good modeling good or positive mental health practices for the next generation. Many of you have heard me talk about, my sort of tagline is making mental health care a family affair. And the reason that I say that is because, as many of you already know, if you follow me and know my story, that I am the wife of a pastor who battles with depression, or he says is at war with depression. He doesn't say he likes to put it that way. Is at war with depression because that means that he has the tools in his arsenal to fight back. So, but and also my two daughters as well deal with depression. And it was really important for us as a family to to really come together and talk about mental health, talk about our personal mental health, talk about mental health of maybe some of the ancestors, some of the relatives, and the elders in in past generations who maybe in our families typically we do a whole lot of we don't share that kind of information. We're very private. And I think that there are things that maybe shouldn't be shared, but I think that a lot of what we don't share really should be. So, just like we share medical information, that is important to know, like your family's medical history, because that could have implications for your own personal medical history. Similarly, knowing your family's mental health history is also important because it can have implications for your own mental health. And if you're um, going through some kind of mental health challenge, you don't feel as alone and you don't feel like you're just in it by yourself, and that you kind of understand that it's coming from a place, that it's not just something just that's just happening to you, but it is something in fact that has kind of come down through the generations, and perhaps those in previous generations did not have the wherewithal or didn't have the tools, maybe didn't have the resources to do anything about their mental health and about checking in on themselves. Maybe they weren't able to go to a therapist, in the African American tradition, like, the whole telling your business to some stranger is just really is not the move. But we're finding out now that in fact it can be the best move because sometimes it's easier to talk to somebody who has no connection to you or your family, to be able to actually get things out that you really need to get out without feeling embarrassed about it or without the fear that, oh, somebody is going to go tell somebody else because these people don't know your family, they don't know you like that. And so you can almost, you can be as free as you need to be. And I think it's important for us to share our own mental health journeys with our children or with other if you don't have children. Most adults have there's some child in your life that looks at you and looks up to you and looks to you as some kind of a guide or some kind of a mentor. So it's important that we are real with the next generation about the things that we've gone through because a lot of times when we go through things as adults, if it's never been shared with us that this is normal, then we think something's wrong with us when in fact maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just that, you're just dealing with some situations that a lot of people deal with. And it could be also that even though you might be dealing with a similar situation to somebody else, you're a different person. So your way of dealing with it is going to be different than the way somebody else deals with it, and that is fine. It's okay to kind of have your own authentic journey with the same kind of issue, but it helps to know that it came from somewhere. I hope that I'm making sense. So, and so a lot of times with our young people, I'm gonna, those of you who follow me know that I, I try to be transparent when I'm on mind the mental. And so I remember having a conversation with my daughter this is a while ago, several years ago, and it was just about relationships because my husband and I have we have a very tight relationship. Um we rarely argue. We've been married in May will be 29 years. We literally have had like two like knockdown drag out kinds of arguments. Um and so because we just don't arguing for us doesn't work for us. We kind of work through things by talking through them. Sometimes we have to kind of give each other some space and then come back to whatever the issue is, and then we kind of just talk through it and work through it that way. But and so my daughter um is looking at me and my husband as relationship goals. And she is, wanting to have a relationship like her dad and me. But she didn't really see all of our relationship, right? She saw the parts because even those couple of times that we had like a bad argument, it wasn't in front of the kids. It was just the two of us, right? But there legit were times earlier in our marriage where we would literally go for days without speaking. Literally, we would go for days without saying, we would have the most minimal conversation we could have. Like if we had to, we had to figure out, how who's taking one of the kids someplace or whatever, stuff like that. It would be like really short, quick, maybe one or two words, but other than that, like we would just like not speaking. But my daughter never knew that because that's not something that we ever showed in front of them. And, and so when she in fact had relationships where, maybe they did have disagreements. Maybe their way of working through a disagreement was to have an argument. It felt to her like she was doing something wrong, like there was something wrong with her. So had she been able to sort of see that, there's no way you're going to have any kind of relationship really, and let alone a marital relationship without at some point having some conflict. She never saw us have conflict that we had to resolve. And therefore, she never learned really how to resolve conflict in a relationship or how to resolve conflict in a marriage. And so, it wasn't until, she's like in her 20s before she ever found that out, that no, there were times that yeah, we've had disagreements, and we've had times where we just didn't speak to each other. And she was really taken aback by that. um, and so I'm saying all that to say, and I'm being transparent about that to say that it's important to share with the next generation some of the struggle. Um, I feel bad in some ways that we only let them see the good part. We only let them see kind of the part where we're all warm and fuzzy and that kind of thing. When in reality, that's just not really realistic for any relationship to just be that way 100% of the time, because you're two different individuals, and when you're coming together, you're not only it's not just the two of you, it's the two of you and all your history coming with you to form this one relationship. It's all your baggage coming together to form this one relationship. And, you know, when I was growing up, when I grew up in this household, this is what the wife did, this is what the husband did. And then when I grew up in this household, they did something totally different. So we come up with all these different values. And if we never show our children vulnerability, if we're never vulnerable with them, they will never learn that it's okay to sometimes be vulnerable and learn mechanisms and tools for getting through that vulnerability. So the same thing with the mental health. So now, if you remember seeing one of the episodes that my husband was on, like the first one, I think he's been on here 3 times now. But the first time that he was on, and we were talking about how when he first started seeing a therapist, he didn't want the kids to know. So there was this one time where I was at work, the kids were with him, it was in the summertime, he really needed to see his therapist. The only appointment he could get was at a time where he was gonna have to take the kids with him, and he did that. He took them, gave them the speech. You know how we tell our kids, like, "Listen, don't go out here acting a fool, because you represent me, right?" So he had that whole speech with them. They sat out in the waiting room, and they were fine. He went and had his appointment. He came back out, and as they're leaving, my son, who was about 8 years old at the time, he looks at my husband and says, "Why you need to see a therapist?" And so, because my husband wasn't thinking about the fact that, okay, these kids are older now, like they're at what was that, 10, 8, and 5. So they can read, right? So, and so my son was able to read that, on the doctor's door, that it's not just a doctor, it's a therapist, in fact. And so at that point, that is when he really started to open up with them about his challenges with depression, because they noticed so kids aren't dumb, right? Like they know what's going on. They can feel you. They can feel your energy. And even children who may have like some kind of cognitive impairment or some other kind of physical or mental kind of challenge can feel your energy. So they know when something is off. And when you're off, they they're off too. If you notice and if you pay attention, right? So, and so it was really important that he started to have those conversations with them as they were young, because as they were growing older and now that they're adults, they're really able to understand that, sometimes there are some mental health issues that run in the family and that they need to be cognizant of. They are okay with seeing a therapist, and they do. My daughters both have therapists. My son has seen a therapist before. He doesn't necessarily need it as regularly, maybe as the girls do, but our entire family, in fact, have we all have our own therapists that we all talk to, and it helps us to navigate some of those challenges that we have within. But if our kids hadn't seen that at a younger age, and if their dad had not been able to, at that point, share with them the challenges that he has, and that, listen, you're going to have some challenges in life sometimes, and it's okay to see a therapist, then maybe they would have grown up with the same sort of um, scarred thinking of, oh, whatever stays in my house, whatever goes on in my house stays in my house. Oh, yeah, I can't talk to anybody about this, because when you do that, you end up, as I've said many, many times, either exploding or imploding. And so it's important for our children to understand and have some tools to navigate this thing called life, even at an early age, because even at early ages, and some of you might have remember, even at early ages, really experiencing some trauma, really having, to be concerned with things that we would think children should not have to be concerned with, but yet they are. And so when I say, the importance of modeling positive mental health care for the next generation, what I mean is that there was something, that used to be said a long time ago, and it was where a parent would say to a child, do as I say, not as I do, which is really the craziest thing you could say, right? Because children are going to do what you do. When you model for them certain behaviors, it's if you're doing something, I'm using this as an example. I'm not trying to be come down on people that smoke, but I'm just using this as an example. So if you're smoking a cigarette and you're telling your child, don't smoke, it's not good for you, you know, it's like, in the child's mind, it's kind of like, well, if it's not good for you, then why are you doing it? You have to be doing it. You have to be getting something out of it to be doing it, right? So, and if on top of that, what you're modeling for your child is, okay, they see you in some kind of stressful situation. They see you upset about something, and the first thing you do when you're upset with something is go reach for a cigarette. Well, when they are, start to have those kinds of emotions and feelings, when they're stressed about something, or when they get upset about something, what they're going to remember is, okay, well, when mom and dad were feeling like this, they reached for a cigarette. So that must be what I should do. When in fact, what you should do, perhaps, is to talk through whatever the issue is that you're going through. Or maybe what you should do is to sit and listen to some quiet music and just be quiet for a while. Or maybe what you should do is go on Google the gazillion breathing exercises there are out there and pick one that will work for you, and do some deep breathing exercises to help yourself relieve yourself of stress. Or maybe what you should do is, if you're feeling stressed out, to go take a walk, and not only take a walk, but take your child with you on that walk. And then you're modeling something that's a little bit different. And as you're walking, share with your child, I really had a stressful day at work today. And so, I might seem a little uptight. You might notice that I'm not in the best mood. This is what I've been going through, because that also humanizes you. I don't know when I first realized that my parents were human. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at what age I, knew that, because when you're little, your parents are just like, you're just in awe of them. They just seem like these larger than life kinds of figures. And at some point you become, I don't know what age, but it's like, whoa, they actually are human. They're not these superhumans that I thought that they were, but they actually are human. And so it humanizes yourself for your either your child, or whether you gave birth to them or not. That doesn't even matter. Know that as an adult, you likely have some kind of influence on somebody's child. Whether you birthed them or not. And so it's important for us to model for them good mental health practices, and to talk to them, you know, talk to them, let them know. Because the other thing is, when you're having those kinds of moments where you had a bad day at work and you're upset, you can't take it out on the person you're upset with at work, so you bring it home and then you take it out on the kid, and then the kid thinks that something is wrong with them. They think that they did something wrong, when in fact, they just were there, and they were the ones who are your that you have something over. And so you're able to kind of take it out on them, even if you don't really mean to. And so it's important to be able to then go to them and say, hey, listen, I messed up, I'm sorry. And that's another part of mental health, and helping your children with positive mental health practices, is to be able to go to your child and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I messed up. Because a lot of people like my generation, 55. Our parents didn't, well, my parents did admit when they were wrong sometimes, but a lot of parents didn't. They could be wrong as two right shoes, and I say two right shoes to two left shoes, because I'm a lefty and I take offense that everything that they talk about being wrong is left. So I'm just switching it up. Um, but they could be as wrong could be, and they still wouldn't apologize, because they're the parent, and whatever they say is right, and it's not. And so, we being able to come to your child and say, "Listen, I'm really sorry. I was in a bad mood. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. It was not you I was upset with." You might even share with them what happened. Because why? When they get older and they start working and they start encountering situations at work, they will then have a frame of reference for these kinds of things, and they won't be caught off guard when crazy things happen in the workplace. All right. So it's like you're teaching them, you're able to teach them a myriad of skills that in fact are related to their mental health, that's related to being proactive about your mental health, just by being able to talk things out and talk things through. So the next time you are having any kind of mental health challenge, And those of you who either, you have children or you're raising children, um, or you work with children, whatever the case might be, try to understand, try to pay attention to how you handle anxiety producing situations in front of them. What are you modeling for them? Are you modeling that, you know, when you're anxious, or when you get excited, or when you're get angry, to go punch a hole in the wall? Is that is that what you're modeling for them, or that you just scream and shout, um, at whomever is around? I mean, if you model for them to like go in a room and scream, I'd be all for that. Do that, because sometimes that's what you need to do. Sometimes that is good, positive mental health practice. My sister, my sister does it all the time. She would just go in her car and scream. And when if you're ever with her and she does that, it's kind of like, but she lets out her scream, and then she's like, okay, and then she kind of, it's really kind of funny. She kind of goes on with her day. That's why I love her. So even if you have to do something like that, but then, explain to them the importance of letting that out and why it's important to let it out in that way, as opposed to spewing it on somebody that you love and saying things and saying hurtful words that you can never ever take back, and that will forever play on the psyche of that child or of that person. Um, and remember that, children, they are our future. They really are our future. And as the song says, that I played with the little advertisement that I sent about this episode, was "The Greatest Love of All," Whitney Houston's version. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. We have to teach them well, and that we so there's a variety of things that we have to teach them, but I really believe that one of the most important things that we can teach our children is how to take care of their mental health, how they can maintain a sound mind. And if they get to a place where they feel like their mind is no longer sound, when they feel like their mind is getting out of control, that at least they recognize it and they know where to go to get help. And they're okay to go and get help. And they have the tools and they have the resources that they need in order to fight those battles that go on in our heads. So in a little while, and not in a little while, but I can't fully share it all with you all. I can't wait until I can, though. I'm so super excited about something that I'm working on that I think will be of help to anybody and everybody, in terms of being proactive about your mental health and taking care of your mental health. So I'm working on some things, and I cannot wait to share it with you all. But yeah, that's really it for tonight. I really want to encourage adults to share their mental health journey with the younger generation, and let them know that it is okay to get help, and it is okay, to share, to be vulnerable, but teach them the safe space to be vulnerable. um, for them, it might not be a safe space for them to be vulnerable on social media, because people, come at people on social media, unless they are, you know, really strong enough to kind of handle some of the vitriol that people can do on social media. I would not suggest social media as being the place where they be vulnerable, but I would suggest that they are given space to be vulnerable in the home, that they are given space if they need to be vulnerable with a therapist who can help them navigate some of the challenges that they might be going through. Because believe it or not, children are people, and those of us in whatever generation we're in, a lot of time we kind of look at the next generation. It's always, these kids. Well, we were these kids, a few years ago. Them kids was us, and it's like Solomon said nothing new under the sun. It's nothing new under the sun. It's the same challenges that existed a long time ago exist today. They just exist in different formats, and it's more technology based, and it's seen more and more prevalent, but they go through stuff. Think about stuff you went through when you was in school. We think about, it's like, oh, I don't know what you was upset about. All you got to do is come home, do some homework, and clean the house. That's all you got to do. Do your chores, do your homework, and we come at the next generation in that way without understanding or without remembering, because sometimes we get selective amnesia and think that we didn't go through some stuff when we were young. Well, we did. So stop acting like you ain't never done nothing. You ain't never, just stop it. Okay? Just stop it. And let the younger generation know, yeah, I got into some stuff that wasn't great, but here's how I got out of it. And a lot of times it's by the grace of God, and we know that. But remember that they really do go through things in school. They go through bullying. They go through kids talking about them, talking about how they dress, talking about physical features of theirs and what that does. And you remember what it did to you. For some of you who may have had people, that teased you about some physical feature that you had, and that record, that song has played on repeat in your head over and over and over again, even well into adulthood. So let's not treat the next generation as if they don't go through things, or as if they don't feel things. And like I said earlier, even for kids who might have some kind of cognitive impairment, they still feel. They feel your energy. They feel how you feel about them. They feel it. They know it. So we have to be mindful of how we model, how we get through some of the mental health challenges that we might face on a day-to-day basis. All right. So I hope this was helpful to somebody. I hope it was an eye opener for for some of us who might have that selective amnesia and forget that we went through some stuff as children or as young people. And I have to tell you, even now, my children are all adults. They are all adults who are out on their own and living their lives. But I'm still mom, and they're at a different stage now, but on some level, they still need mom, and they still need mom to be vulnerable sometimes. And because they need to be able to know that they can come to me when they're having some kind of challenge. And I'm grateful that all of my children, um, feel that way, that they can come, they can talk to me about anything, they can be real and raw, because I'm a real and raw kind of mom, and sometimes too sometimes a little too raw. The kids would kind of just be like, okay, mom, all right, I get it. But I just believed in being that, probably because that's the way my dad was with me. He was just straight no chaser. And so I kind of carry that in my parenting style, because they just need to know, because their friends are going to be telling them little crazy stuff that they just going to be telling them stuff that don't even make sense. And so listen, I love you, and I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to be straight with it. And so, we have to be vulnerable with them and let them know, listen, I know I've been where you are. I've had my own challenges, not to say that mine are are exactly the same as yours. They're different, but and yet the same. But this is how I dealt with it. I dealt with it by X, Y, and Z. Or, so teach them about deep breathing, teach them about meditating, praying, teach them about um, seeing a therapist, teach them about talking, getting some of those emotions out. Don't stifle them and suffocate them and make them feel like they have to hold stuff in, um, because that really is can be very, very self-destructive. So I have faith and hope in our next generation. I have faith and hope in how they will carry the torch and how they will move things forward for their generation. And I want to be able to say that, our generation, Gen X, that we had hands in shaping them into the bright, beautiful lights that they are and will be into the future. And I do this now I'm a grandmother. Now I'm a GMA. And so I'm thinking about my grandbabies, the one that's here and the one that's on the way. Both girls. I want them to live in a world where they are free, as is in my book, The Scream Within. I want them to feel free to make the scream within a scream without fear, without condemnation, without ridicule, without embarrassment. So if you haven't gotten that, go pick up The Scream Within: Mental Health and Clergy Marriages, Journey of a Pastor's Spouse. It's on Amazon, anywhere you get your books. Check it out. All right, so that's it for tonight. I hope that this has been helpful. And remember, I need you to do a few things for me. One, I need you to go right now. I need you to go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Benita underscore, I think it's underscore, Benita Weathers 329. I'm Benita Weathers on all of the social media. I used to have different social media handles for different things, and then my daughter was like, "You need to just be Benita Weathers wherever you are, so people can find you a little more easily." So I did that. So I need you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I need you to comment. I need you to engage. I need you to let me know if the material that I'm presenting on these Mind the Mental Mondays is helpful to you. I need you to share with me if there are topics around mental health that you would like to have me to share about on Mind the Mental Mondays. All right. So I thank you for those of you that are regulars on Mind the Mental Monday. I thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And for those who may not comment in the comments, but comment in the comments, please. But I hear through other sources, maybe in Messenger or some other source, that you're listening. I appreciate you, and I really just desire the best for you. I want us to all have better mental health. I want us to be proactive. I want us to mind the mental every day. All right. So, looking forward to talking to you again next Monday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, Instagram, Facebook. It'll be uploaded this evening to YouTube. Um, Thank you again and have a wonderful rest of the week.